morning. This is episode 2 of Musings of a Madman, presented by the last operator of the universe. And today we're talking about suicide, or rather the meaning of life. On the point of suicide, I've never actually thought about it beyond the terms of how would I do it, and what would happen after I was gone, stuff like that. I've never actually gone deep into it and thought, do I have a good reason to commit suicide? Personally, for me, I feel like to kill yourself, it takes courage, a courage that I honestly don't have. I'm too much of a coward to kill myself. But I was asked this question by a friend of a friend's a while back. She was like, she looked at me. She was like, Damien, what's the meaning of life? And in that moment, I know I had an answer, but I said the most usual thing, I said what people usually say when someone's going through a tough time, or when they ask you like a really important question, laced in in a common phrase. They ask you something like, in this case, she asked me what's the meaning of life, and I told her the basic answer that everybody goes with. Meaning of life is that you want to live it or to enjoy it, and just a phrase, like a catchphrase, not an actual answer, not something you can actually think about when you go home, and it'll help you ponder and wonder why you would want to continue on living. What's the point of life? And to get to that point there, the point of life, I'd say we have to look at a few things. But this is a philosophical question. It needs to be burned in the fires of your brain, and then just pour down into your heart like molten gold or something. Okay, I don't even know what that phrase means, but yeah, it needs to be passionate. It needs to be strong. It needs to fill every part of you. It needs to feel like a freaking fire in your veins. So to have a passion for something, to have something that's worth living for, is what everyone wants. We all want purpose. We all want a place to belong. And my favorite philosopher actually described why, even though life is horrible, even though things are bad, even though you're doing the same thing over and over again, you go to school, you wake up, you sleep, it's a vicious cycle of nonsense. It feels like you're just here to live the mundane. And how can you possibly find purpose in all this? And this French-Algerian philosopher, Albert Camus, he described why you'd find a reason to live. Why this mundane repetition of daily activities would actually mean something to you, simply because of what they are. So Albert Camus writes about suicide. He writes about the purpose of life. He's a philosopher, so he delves deep into a lot of things. But the one thing I want to pay attention to now is a story he wrote, The Myth of Sisyphus. Albert Camus describes Sisyphus as an ancient king in a city somewhere in Greece there. I think Erytha. Yeah. So Sisyphus was a king who was considered proud and conniving. His story is described as a man who escaped death twice. So yeah, let's just go back to the past. Sisyphus was the king of, let's call it Erytha from now on. He was the king of Erytha, and in this city of his, he lived in the castle, obviously, at the top tower and at the top of the mountain. And when he invited people over, it was said that he abused his power. He showed off how much of a tyrant he was. He enjoyed messing with people's lives by using his power. He enjoyed terrorizing people with his power. It said that he seduced his niece, and then he would throw people off the tower just to show off his power. Now, Sisyphus was in multiple confrontations with the ancient Greek gods at the time, and the two most interesting ones started with when Zeus kidnapped a water nymph. Yeah, he kidnapped a water nymph disguised as a bird, and he flew away with this water nymph. And the The river god, of course, was not happy about this and chased Zeus down, and apparently Zeus managed to stop by or pass by Erytha, Sisyphus's kingdom. And what happened there was, when Sisyphus met the river god chasing down his daughter, and he bargained. Basically, he was like, look, if you can make a spring in my city, then I'll tell you where Zeus went. And he did. The spring was made, and he told the river god where Zeus went. Zeus heard about this, and he was obviously very pissed. So Zeus calls Thanatos. Yeah, Thanatos from the underworld to, not Thanos, Thanatos from the underworld to chain up Sisyphus and keep him in hell, or keep him in the underworld to stop him from enjoying his life. Basically, it's a punishment. Now Sisyphus, when he goes down into the underworld and he's about to be chained up, as per Zeus's punishment, okay, this is becoming way too much about Sisyphus, but anyway, so he asks Thanatos, how do you put on the chains? And somehow manages to use the chains on Thanatos. So as Thanatos is showing him how to put on the chains, Sisyphus escapes and goes back to the land of the living. After that, he knew that when he died, he would be in trouble. So Sisyphus told his wife that when I die, throw my water in the river, and eventually it'll end up at the river Styx in the underworld, and then I'll be able to bargain my way out of there. So this is what happened. When he died, he was thrown into the river, and he ended up at the river Styx. And he told Persephone, the queen of the underworld, that the reason why he was here was because his wife had disrespected him, and he needed to go back to the world of the living to his wife had disrespected him by not giving him a proper burial. So Sisyphus wanted to go back to the world of the living and basically, apparently punish his wife. So the queen of the underworld, Persephone, allowed this to happen. She said, you may go, but please come back. Not please, but yeah, you may go, but come back when you're done. Don't stay for too long. And Sisyphus got away with it again, man. He was like, I gotcha. He went back up to earth. He came back to the world of the living, and he lived his life again. Your boy was just seriously balling, man, conniving and just messing with people's ideologies and expectations of him. So yeah, this is just to illustrate that Sisyphus was a very cunning and clever man, and he usually got what he wanted. So Albert Camus writes of Sisyphus as a man punished by the gods, because after all these betrayals, Zeus made sure that the punishment was more than worthy of the crime, let's say that. So he punished Sisyphus to roll a boulder up a massive mountain, somewhere in the underworld. He tasked Sisyphus to roll a boulder up a mountain, and then at the end of the day, he'd watch it roll back down. And then he'd go back down at the bottom of the mountain, and he would push the boulder up the mountain. He would do this for eternity. That was the punishment. He would do this forever. So what Albert Camus pointed out here was he wants us to imagine Sisyphus is happy when he's doing this, when he's pushing the boulder up every day and watching the boulder roll down in satisfaction. We should picture him happy. He should be enjoying this. The reason is because Sisyphus could easily end his torture right now. Instead of pushing the boulder up the mountain, instead of letting the boulder roll back down, when he reaches the top, he could just stand in its path and be crushed and destroyed. At the top of the cliff, he could also simply just jump off. Sisyphus could commit suicide, but he doesn't, because to him, this rolling the boulder up the mountain is meaningful to him. He finds purpose in what he does. You must imagine him, excuse me, you must imagine Sisyphus happy when he's doing this. He must have intent and pressure, and now I'm just rambling, my goodness. So the purpose of life is just to live it. It's what I told that girl when she asked me, but it honestly is that simple, It doesn't have to have some grand purpose. It doesn't have to have some. They say happiness is a journey. It's not a destination, right? Yeah, because we think of life as we're doing something to end up somewhere else. You know, we go to school so we can end up with a degree. We go work hard and train so we can get that goal. You know, there's always a finish line in mind. You know, we're always expecting a reward at the end. And one thing I told my friend a while back, he was like, you know, one day we're gonna make it, bro. You know, one day we're gonna make it. When we're like 50 or something, we'll be set. So I asked him, like, what if we're 19, we still haven't made it? You know, what then? So I wonder, man, like, if you look at life as something that needs to be always explained, if there's always has to be a meaning or decision or a plan behind every little thing that's happening, then you miss out on the little, like, just the little sprinkles of random mundaneness in the middle. Because most of your life is spent doing things that are just repetitive, things that honestly in the end they don't end up amounting to much. If you don't accumulate doing these tasks does not accumulate goodwill. Let me explain. Let's say the mundane things that we usually do are things like eating. You know, you eat, then you get hungry, then you eat again. You know, going to the toilet, shitting. That's also one thing that we do over and over again that does not accumulate. It's something that we're gonna have to repeat over and over again, regardless of how you live. You know, eating, sleeping, going to school or walking somewhere, getting things done. These are parts of mundane life that take up most of your life. You know, the amazing moments are far and in between. Sure, you can make those mundane parts of life interesting and exciting, but you don't really have to. So that's what I would tell that person now. The purpose of life is not to have fun all the time. It's not to enjoy everything all the time. Sometimes the suffering is worth it. Sometimes the suffering, like Sisyphus, pushing up that boulder, is your purpose, you know. And I'm not saying don't look for better or don't aim for better, but don't dwell on the fact that you're suffering. You know, it's not meant to be a plot device. It's not meant to be something that you can carry on into your life and use it for anything. You cannot go around talking about the moment where you had the worst day of your life, or the moment where you had the worst moment of your life, or the moment where you failed or didn't live up to your own expectations. You have to have, I don't want to say transcendence, but honestly, you need to be above the daily things. You should look at them as things you enjoy, but don't dwell on them. Okay, this was clearly not going to end up as a YouTube video, but great talk, guys. Bye.